you very much. So as Giles says, I'm Ryan Laux here. I'll be presenting some of the OneStream solution to you guys today. And also the aim of this presentation is to relate things back to what Nicholas Cox was saying this morning, and specifically those 5 steps to finance transformation. And I'm going to try and relate that to how the OneStream platform can assist with this and creating an efficient close and planning process in the Office of Finance. So as Giles said, I'm a solutions consultant here. I manage the team in the UK and both in the Nordics, and I come from a background of consulting and actually working in finance myself. So moving forward, starting off with that slide that Nick showed as part of his session this morning that I hope everybody enjoyed. And I'm going to actually use this as my agenda, how I'm going to move through the OneStream application. And we're just going to see examples for these different steps related to some of the processes that we can manage in OneStream. So the first step here, I'm going to show a little bit of reporting, and it's going to be from kind of a dashboard point of view and showing you how you can kind of keep your finger on the pulse here in OneStream. And we're going to talk about things like KPIs, but also diving into this specific point here about determining business objectives by line of business and function. There's some unique functionality in OneStream that Nick referred to earlier that allows you to have different business objectives by line of business and function in OneStream. So something very unique to us. Then we'll move through to streamlining the close process. So everything in A2R from account reconciliations to that actual close at the management reporting level, all the way through to our consolidation and how we can help to automate some of those complexities around intercompany eliminations and other processes. So moving on into step 3 will be around planning, and we'll see kind of a unique use case there where we're going to be leveraging quite high volume information, but also seeing how we can leverage some of the automation that we use for our close process for planning also. So bringing information in and driving efficiency through our planning process, allowing us to get to the end of those planning cycles much quicker and also multiple iterations of them. Now, the final 2 steps I'm actually going to cover off in one. Now, my personal opinion here is this automation of reporting, that's kind of a byproduct of these steps previously, but I'm also going to show you how you can extend that automation in reporting. And we're going to go beyond the sort of typical 30 days here. And we're going to start to look at and explore how OneStream can be used in a more frequent process, a weekly or a daily type reporting process. And then that's going to lead to this kind of utopia that everybody's striving for at the moment, how all of that information and how all of these processes happening in a single application can also extend into things like predictive forecasting and leveraging things like machine learning. So we'll show you a small example there of where predictive analytics can provide us almost a sounding board in terms of helping us make judgment where we might want to make changes to our plan moving forward. So that's going to be the flow of the session. So moving forward, the most important thing to take away from today when I get through this demonstration is everything I show you today is in a single application. So I'm going to be showing you some of the functionality we have in our financial data quality. I'm going to be showing you some functionality that we have for close and consolidation, functionality for reporting, budget and planning. But the great thing about OneStream is all of this functionality can be used for any process that you look to tackle in OneStream. So you can consolidate your budget and plan, and you can report from your financial data quality area alongside your budget and plan, alongside your financial consolidation. So a very complete solution that really allows you to tackle those enterprise level problems that some of our big customers at OneStream are setting out to streamline. So moving forward, step 1. So what I want to showcase here is number 1, how we keep our finger on the pulse in OneStream, how OneStream can display to our different users, how they can instantly get those KPIs and those important metrics from our home pages. But also we're going to dive into this line of business sentence here that I talked about earlier. So how OneStream can provide different business objectives for different lines of business and functions within a single application. And what that's going to need is different data models and different granularity for those lines of business. And I'm going to talk about extensibility and how that helps solve that problem. So the first thing I'm going to do is flick over to the OneStream application itself. And I'm going to use a landing page to navigate through here today. Just a key thing I want to point out is everything is governed by a workflow in OneStream. And a lot of our customers actually use something called Task Manager to orchestrate their processes and move around the system. But because we're just going to dive into some specific points, I'm just going to use this landing page here to navigate. So my first port of call is going to be reporting. So I'm going to click my reporting button, and this is going to provide an example dashboard. So that's stage one, understanding our business. So once we've established that control model that we want to use to monitor performance and report on our business, and I'll show you how that can be different by line of business shortly with extensibility, we're able to start reporting on our information in a very intuitive way in OneStream. So the first principle of OneStream here is everything's interactive and you're only ever a click away from additional granularity. So as I interact with some of these different components, we can trigger dashboards or reports to show on the screen to guide users through the information and the granularity in the OneStream application. So I clicked on that EBITDA development and it's opened a new dashboard in my screen. Equally, if I want to interrogate calculated fields, I'm going to click on this KPI. It's going to give me a scorecard with all of the KPIs that I might want to interrogate. If I click on my gross margin percentage and drill here, we can access a drill down window. And in OneStream, for people who are familiar with drill downs, we have two options. First option is to interrogate calculated information and drill down through a calculation, as I've just done on the screen. But we also provide the ability here to drill right down through our data structures and our dimensionality. And we'll see just how far we can go later on when we load some information. So this first step here, understanding our business, we can present information in a very intuitive fashion in OneStream. And now I'm going to talk about how that can be very different by line of business. So I'm going to move over to this sales analysis dashboard over here. And this is giving me more of a holistic view of our business where I've got all of the lines of business down the left-hand side. And I've got some charts and graphs here focusing on regions and the products that we sell. So I'm at the top level of my structure at the moment, which is Gulfstream here. But if I click on my South Houston, what we'll see is the information updates. And when I click on detail, it's going to show me the level of granularity that we are capturing for South Houston. So that clubs has now extended down into hybrids, irons, wedges, conventional, long and belly products. Now, if I was to flick over to a slightly different business unit, so let's take New York, for example, what we'll see is that product dimensionality here changes. Now, in OneStream, that doesn't mean we've just minimized the products that we're not using. These lines of business, these business units actually have different data models. So what do I mean by that? I'm going to flick back over to my PowerPoint and I'm going to talk about what extensibility provides. So extensible dimensionality, what it allows us to do is have a unique data model for different lines of businesses and processes within OneStream. So when I looked at that dashboard at that top level, that total company, this is an example on the account dimension, but we were seeing it on the product dimension in there. We had a corporate standard where we wanted to be able to compare every company that sat within our organization. Now, if you think about solutions in the past, this is where offering that operational relevance and offering those business focused KPIs became very difficult because you had to align on a single standard chart of accounts or a single standard product dimension. In OneStream, we don't need to do that. What we can do is we can establish a standard where every business can be compared side by side, but we offer those business units and lines of businesses their ability to extend those dimensions for their own unique purposes. So the Houston entities that I was looking at before, they were extending down into clubs. And on their chart of accounts, they're extending to third-party sales, OEM sales, sub-assemblies. Now, our services line of business, which was New York, they can do the same thing. They can inherit that corporate structure, but they can extend further down into how they want to manage their business or how they're going to be monitored in terms of their performance. So what we can do in OneStream is we can allow people, we can swap mappings and aggregations with physical data points within OneStream. So users can slice and dice their information at this low level of granularity. They can embed their own KPIs at this level where they're monitoring their business, but they can also be monitored and compared side by side from a group perspective at this operating sales, because it always inherits this corporate standard. So this gives us a lot of flexibility when we want to analyze and understand our businesses, to have those different cuts and models that are needed for those different businesses in our organization. Now, the real power here comes in where we actually are able to change this by process as well. So what we might define for actuals can also be different for budget. So in terms of that, understanding where we are today, designing a control model, OneStream has a lot of flexibility in terms of how you implement that control model. It can be different by process, and it can be different by line of business. Now, I'm not going to continue any further in that dashboard. We're just looking at sort of point functionality here, and I'm going to continue forward and move through into the close process. So how did the data we saw in that dashboard get into the solution? So again, just tabbing over to the OneStream application, I'm going to close out this dashboard. Now, from here, I'm going to navigate to my compliance. Now, part of creating a streamlined process, a streamlined close, is people actually understanding what they need to do and when they need to do it. So as I was referring to earlier, a lot of our customers adopt this as a homepage task manager. So instantly showing users what is required of them on what day, the distribution of tasks that are forthcoming, and we get to view this for any process or all processes in the OneStream application. So this is a great way of deploying, new processes, changes to the process to the users. They log into the system, they can instantly see what it is they need to undertake. Now, in OneStream, we can display this a number of ways, and this is one of my sort of favorites, is this Gantt chart view. So effectively, we can digitalize that financial calendar that is often kept in a spreadsheet and actually encompass that entire close process. So you can see we go all the way from activities like closing our subledger all the way through to accounts reconciliations and certifying and completing our disclosures. So complete process orchestration here in the OneStream application. Now, what I want to show you now is how we get information in. So another aspect of being efficient in a closed process and streamlining it is being efficient in our data acquisition. So I'm going to click on this load sales detail, which is going to now take me directly to my workflow. So the workflow over here, I can see the period, the year, the scenario that I'm responsible for. It knows it's inherited from my user rights, the entity. And what OneStream's going to do is guide me through this close process. So we're just going to touch on one topic here, but we've got manual data entry, journals, and a review step here. But I just want to show you how OneStream's data quality and the way we bring information in can help you streamline that process. Now, before I do that, I just want to point out that this process that I'm going to go through, typically, this is an automated lights out process that our customers go through. So what I'm going to show you in 3 steps here is typically happening in the background, where our customers are pulling information directly from source systems on a scheduled basis. But I just want to show you some of the steps that this goes through in OneStream. So the first point of this loading some sales detail here is to bring the information into OneStream's data quality area. So I've hit load and transform. That's utilized at a direct connect to our ERP, and that's going to pull information into the OneStream application as it is in that ERP solution. So we've actually got invoice level information coming into our data quality area in OneStream. Now, this information might be useful for transaction matching or accounts reconciliation. So we're going to leverage this information in other processes in OneStream as well. So we can be extremely efficient with this data. Now, the next step is we're not going to consolidate at an invoice level. We're going to now sort of map this to a structure that allows us to consolidate and report further down the line. So the next step here is to validate that. Now, validations here are effectively checking that everything I'm intending to load has a home. So a lot of our customers have multiple source systems where there is changes happening in those systems on a daily basis, new products, new accounts, new customer codes. So OneStream has this data transformation capability built into the application, and it's built into the workflow. So when people encounter errors, when they encounter problems loading information in, this can be displayed in a very intuitive way as the data comes into OneStream. And again, as this tool is in part of the OneStream application itself, it means that it is owned by the Office of Finance. So I don't need to raise a ticket. I don't need to go to a third party or a consultant to help resolve my mapping issues here. I'm going to now see the error as the information's coming in, and I'm given the tools to address this and resolve this problem. So I can see the source value, I can see that it's currently unassigned, I can see the dimensionality available to me, and in a single click, I can amend that and correct this mapping. So that will now be updated for all future mappings going forward. So now that information has been validated, it will be aggregated to the level that we want to use for consolidation. I'm now ready to load that into my application. So I hit load cube, and that's going to push this into my financial layer, run any kind of intercompany eliminations that I might want to run on that data as it's coming into OneStream. So this embedded data quality area in OneStream, this is allowing me to manage that data transformation and those mappings that typically people are using ETL tools or even finance data warehouses to do. So the reason that this is so powerful, and also the insight that this gives you and the value that this gives you, is by doing this in OneStream, it understands the journey of that information, how it was transformed from those source values. So from any report, I can actually drill down on my numbers and drill back through these mappings. So to show you an example here, this is now a revenue account. This is now customer code. So this is the data and the granularity that I'm going to consolidate. If I right click on this and hit drill down, I can get back to that invoice level detail. Now, uniquely, if we've established a direct connection to our source systems, one of the things that OneStream can also do is pass a query back through that connection to that source system, and we can actually pull source line item information from that source system into the OneStream application to view. So I can click on this invoice level here, and I can drill back and actually see line item detail from that source ERP. Now, this isn't just reserved for ERP solutions. Our customers are bringing information in for planning purposes, which might come from a HR solution or CRM solution. So this data quality area provides a lot of value through the entire Office of Finance in all of those processes that you want to manage in the OneStream application. So that was a quick example there of bringing information in. And like I said, typically this is a lights out scheduled automated process where the only intervention that is required is if there is an error, where somebody will get an email prompting them to do something. Okay, so just closing down on that sales detail here and moving back to my compliance dashboard. Now, that same data loading is used whether we're doing transaction matching or whether we're doing our accounts reconciliation. And that's actually one of the tasks here in my workflow. So again, highlighting the power of the platform here of OneStream, providing all of these different solutions for all of the processes that you need in that A2R process. So clicking on guided reporting, let's move through and look at how that information is compiled now into an income statement. So clicking on guided reporting, this is a sort of self-service tool within the OneStream application where you can combine different dimensionality as a user here and different rows and column sets. So it's flexible reporting for the masses. So people who maybe aren't going to be in building reports from scratch. And it's really, really simple in here. I'm effectively able to just click and change the output that I'm looking at. So that income statement, those data values that I've just loaded for operating sales, automatically coming through into this. I can flick over to my balance sheet, where again, I can change and monitor this and look at this information on different bases. So I can look at this on maybe an IFRS basis, or I might want to look at it on a local GAAP. So multi-GAAP and IFRS reporting in OneStream as well. Now, like I was mentioning, leveraging that information that we brought in through that data quality area for different purposes. So we might be using that information for balance sheet attestations, and we might be using it for transaction matching. Now, because we're doing all of that in OneStream and we're doing all of that in a single application, we can flick to reports like this balance sheet risk management report. So what this is doing, it's using a trial balance that I loaded to be consolidated, and it's now looking at my account reconciliations and combining that different information into a single report. So from here, I can actually see the status completion of all of my balance sheet attestations against that trial balance that is being consolidated by group. And further to that, that interaction, that drill down, I can simply click on any one of these balance sheet line items and see the physical account reconciliation. So instead of having to log out or move into another solution, another product, I can manage all of this from OneStream. So I've got complete visibility in this closed process here as a business controller. So that data quality, bringing information in an efficient manner, the ability to own that as finance, the ability to combine different sort of A to R processes in a single place helps streamline that close process. I've got visibility of my reconciliation completion. I've got my consolidated balance sheet on an IFRS basis, everything happening in a single solution. Okay, so moving back to my slides here, we talked about financial data quality, and we talked a little bit about how we can pull information there from source systems, how OneStream builds that line of sight. So just a recap of effectively what we've done there. And we call this kind of creating a data value chain in OneStream. We've talked about the data connections, so we can connect to any solution that is open via API or ODBC. We can bring that information into the OneStream application where we can map and transform it. And we can also check that data quality as well. And that could be anything from validations, checking that we've loaded correct signage, all the way through to a physical balance sheet attestation. That information is then passed into our flexible data model, extensible dimensionality. So although we might want to consolidate at operating sales for all of the manufacturing business units, we're loading that information in at third-party sales so they can slice and dice that information in our dashboards. And that's the next step, everything moving through into the reporting. And as we saw with that drill down, because all of this happens in a single solution where you're guided through by a single workflow, you get that line of sight and visibility all the way back through our consolidation, through our balance sheet attestations, and we can even pass the query back to those source systems to present information that we've not brought into OneStream. So this effectively creates that data value chain, a very efficient closed process where we're not having to duplicate information and move it around from system to system. Now, moving forward, we're now going to start to think about planning and forecasting. And that efficient data value chain now starts to provide value here because our ERPs, our source systems that we use for consolidation, hold information that's very, very valuable to plan and forecast. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you a short example of some planning and budgeting functionality that we have in OneStream, where we're going to take an order book from our source system. That's actually going to form the basis of our forecast for the remaining periods of the years. And this is going to leverage our data quality area in here as well to bring that information in. So that data value chain we just talked about is going to be used for planning and budgeting now. So flicking over to the OneStream application, let's close down a couple of these dashboards here, going back to my homepage, and I'm going to execute a forecast. So this has brought me through to a very concise forecasting example. Now, at the moment, I'm looking at a form here where I've got volume by customer, I've got operating sales, and some variable costs by customers, and everything is blank. Now, instead of going through that traditional method of getting people to request information from the sales managers, liaising with their business partners, manually, key that in, maybe have to map it and aggregate it offline in Excel, what we're going to do, leverage that data value chain, leverage that ability to connect to a source system and automate these volumes and revenue figures from our master source, our order book, our CRM solution. So let's flick back a step here and go to my initial inputs. And what you're going to see here is line item information here that we have pulled in from our order book. We have forecasted orders. So orders we are projecting and maybe applying a probability ratio to in the future. We've got orders that we have already received a purchase order for. So solid in the order book, and they're projected for manufacturing and billing, in future periods. We've also got orders that might be in flight. So we can tag these different pieces of information with different statuses. And what you'll notice is we're capturing lots and lots of information here related to these orders. So things that would typically not sit in a financial data model. So in OneStream, quite uniquely here, we're not limited in terms of the dimensionality that we need to capture, nor the amount of line items that we need to capture to perform this process. So we can go millions of records here that we might be bringing in from these source systems with lots of columns that provide information to project forward a volume and revenue plan. So in this case here, we've got our price, we've got our quantity, we've got a production start date and a contract duration. We've also got a discount percentage and where we're shipping these goods to and which goods are being purchased. So all of this information is going to be passed through a calculation in OneStream. And just to show you the output of those calculations, I've got a little report here that shows by order everything that has been calculated. So this might not be a report that everybody looks at, but this information can equally be pushed into a dashboard for people to analyze. But what I really like about this here is we have by order, the values that have been calculated, where they are about to land in our income statement, but we also have that formula. So when we need to interrogate these and understand what OneStream's doing, we can always drill down and see how that has been produced, those values. So time now to complete this. I don't need to add any information to here. So I'm happy with the data as it's come from my CRM solution using our Direct Connect. And I'm going to push that into my financial data model. Now from here, we're going to combine some of that information with data that we may have brought from a manufacturing solution or a production planning solution. So moving forward here, my standard margin data, we can see all of those volumes and operating sales figures that have been produced from that line item data. I'm going to combine that with production and manufacturing drivers. So timesheet information. So how much of my supervisor overheads am I going to absorb? How much production costs am I going to absorb by the time each of these products are spent on the mold? So this is typically information that, again, will reside in a source system. You don't have to key this into OneStream. If you're looking for an agile planning process, this can be sourced from a operational, an ERP, a manufacturing solution. Again, providing agility in this planning process. Now, the reason our customers are looking to automate this is typically they want to run multiple iterations of this what if scenario analysis. And the only way to do that is to be efficient in terms of how you pull the information through these planning models. So all I've got to do now, this allocation driver data, is move down to my output and click perform allocations. And OneStream is going to take that volume related information we got from our order book, that production related information that we brought from our other source system, combine the two, and we're already down to our gross margin. So if we think about the speed here and the agility that we have, we could run multiple iterations of that. That's taken me maybe a couple of minutes to run through with all of my talk. So just talking about how our customers are moving in stages, they're starting to explore this very sort of granular line item planning in OneStream. So moving back to my slides here, financial data quality, not just applicable to consolidation, very applicable to budgeting and planning processes where we might be pulling information from lots of different disparate solutions. So moving forward, and just to talk a little bit about that, and also one of the features provided by OneStream, the XF Marketplace. So we talked about our accounts and our multi-dimensional area and extensibility and how that can differ. And I've just shown you how we can extend beyond that using our data blending to order number level, bill of materials. This is also used for people planning. So I'd encourage you to check out our website. We have a lot of marketplace solutions that help accelerate these processes. So sales planning was actually the solution that I have just showcased there, where we brought information in at the order number level and produced volumes and unit costs. Okay, so step 3, step 2, we've streamlined our close process. We've also created some agility in our planning, and we'll see some another variation of planning shortly. But now moving on to this step 4 and step 5, automating my reporting. So because I've enabled these different steps here, I know how I want to monitor my business. I've got the flexibility that extensible dimensionality provides. I've been efficient in terms of bringing my information into OneStream. I'm also planning in the same application that I'm doing my A2R process. My reporting and the automation of this is a byproduct. So I can now pull any information from each of these processes together in a dashboard or a report in OneStream. So what I'm going to do now is show you some of the value leading into that lead at speed tagline that we're using here, that financial signaling, and say how you can leverage the efficiency we create in these processes to move through to more advanced planning techniques and be even more agile in terms of how you formulate strategy and plan in the future. So let's move back to the OneStream application. And let's move back to our reporting dashboard. Now, one of the dashboards in here, this bookings and billings, this is now a byproduct of that efficient close process. So I created a data connection to my store systems, my ERPs. I don't have to run that just at month end. So there's values in those income statements, in my balance sheet, in that trial balance that change on a daily basis, and I don't need to wait until the period close to get an idea of where those values are going, or to attain those signals that the changes in those values are telling me. So perhaps we've moved from scheduling that trial balance load from a monthly basis to a daily basis. And maybe I'm looking at my billings, my revenue line on that daily basis and charting that against my target. So here, what I'm doing is I'm just leveraging that same information I'm using from actual close, bringing it in on a more frequent basis. And I'm actually able to see at working day 15 of the month that I might not actually achieve my target for this period. And equally, if I look at some more operational variances, my order to ship days, I can see that we are actually slower in terms of getting goods out of our warehouse. So not only are we behind on our billings, we're shipping less out of our warehouse, and we're doing it at a slower pace as well. So all we've done is leverage that same data that we were looking at for consolidation, our balance sheet and our income statement, started to bring that in on a more frequent basis and report on it. So these are the signals that we're talking about when we talk about leading at speed and financial signaling. These are the types of things that we're talking about. We're talking about KPIs on a more frequent basis. So moving forward, I've also leveraged that invoice level data that I was loading for in that data quality step to look at my debtors. And I can clearly see here that a quarter of my debtors are sat in my 60 to 90 days bucket. I can click on that and I can see exactly which customer is contributing to that. So that financial signaling giving me the information I need to react before we close the period. So I could push into an initiative now to collect this cash so I can invest or be more efficient with my working capital. Now, this is why I've put those boxes 4 and 5 together, because I'm now automating my reporting. I've moved from a 30-day reporting cycle to a daily or weekly reporting cycle. And that gives me the opportunity to execute strategy on a more frequent basis and in a more agile manner. And again, because we're doing both our consolidation, our reconciliations, our close, our forecasting and budgeting all in the same application, I'm only ever one click away from understanding my data and taking action on it. So I've clicked from that dashboard and it's brought me through to a high level strategic planning model where I've already started a new what if scenario where I can start to change some of the drivers that we know affect our business. So one of the big things we picked up on there was my DSO days. So very, very simply here, I can highlight these and say, right, I'm going to put an initiative in to bring these down to an average of 45 days. All I've got to do is hit save and calculate, and that driver using the OneStream financial intelligence that we have for consolidation is going to push that through now an income statement, cash flow, and balance sheet. So moving down into my scenarios down here, what we should see is that there's been a change in my free cash flow at the end of the year based on me implementing that change, implementing that initiative to reduce my debtor days. So I could do something with that cash to set me up, for the future. We could look into, an acquisition or investment in capital, etc. But it's that easy to pick up on a signal from a dashboard and move into execution in OneStream. Now, equally, we talked about predictive and machine learning. One of our sounding boards for this could be, what does predictive analytics say? So what does all of that historical information I have for my consolidation telling me about the future? And what we can clearly see here is we have made the right decision to execute and put an initiative in to reduce those DSO days, because predictive analytics using that seasonality trend, using the Holt-Wilters model, is telling me that this is going to get wildly out of control. So everybody, I'm sort of running out of time here. I'm going to flick back to my slides and kind of wrap this up. And this is kind of the last slide that I want to leave you guys with. We've been through how OneStream has functionality for each of those steps to allow you to transform finance. Now, one of the unique things in OneStream is this is all in a single application. So what I've done in that very sort of point demonstration is I've taken information from source systems. I've brought that into OneStream. I've turned that into KPIs. I've turned that into reports. And I've done that on not just the traditional 30-day cycle, but I've done that on a more frequent basis where we managed to catch that 60 to 90 days bucket getting out of control before we close the period. And in a single click, I was able to move from there and into a planning form and execute on that strategy and formulate a new strategy for moving forward. So very unique to OneStream, that ability to move through, analyze our information, understand what that is telling me, and execute in a single product. Okay, so I think I've hit pretty much 40 minutes there. And I can see that there's a little bit of Q&A, so I'm going to stop my presentation. And I'm back to you, Giles.
Lovely, thanks, Ryan. Really good overview into the platform there. We have got a couple of questions through. Let me dive straight in. The first one is from Annie, and Annie asks, on the forecasting side, does the platform allow for on-the-fly visualizations to be built based on weekly or monthly changing goals or targets?
So the visualizations in OneStream, it's part of the application. It's reading the most up-to-date information in the application. So if you're doing a forecasting process on a weekly basis, a monthly basis, as that data is changing, all of the data visualizations and reporting will automatically reflect that information. So there is no data latency, moving data around different applications. Here, it's all happening within a single product. Hopefully I've understood the question there.
Yeah, brilliant, thank you. Anonymous attendee has asked, what deployment models do you provide? And then the second question being, can this be implemented partly on cloud and partly on premises?
Sorry, what was the first part of that question? What
deployment models do you provide?
Oh, yes. So OneStream is as a SaaS solution. So typically this is deployed in the cloud in our own Azure instance. So we provide OneStream as software as a service, so we can provide the performance required as well. So typically this is a SaaS solution.
Brilliant, thanks. And then one last question from Mary, who has asked, is the software customizable and can it be integrated with other systems?
It can, and that's one of the the biggest powers here in OneStream is our flexibility to integrate to source systems and pull information in. But equally, we also present information from OneStream via an API as well. So if you have a chosen BI strategy, we can very efficiently present information into a tool like Power BI as well. So very, very flexible.